I'm asking DeepSeek, a Chinese AI model, a question about the pros and cons of Chinese socialism. There you go. It was trying to give me all the pros and cons, but it's beyond its current scope. Let's talk about something else. Let's ask the same question about the democratic system in the US. What are the
pros and cons of the US democratic system?
Now, is it going to say it doesn't want to talk about that? Huh. Surprise, surprise. We can freely find out the pros and cons of this system, but Chinese socialism, we don't want to talk about it. Hi folks, welcome to The Art of Engineering. This video is not really that ham focused, but I'd like to think that hams, being the geeky people that they are, might find this interesting. It's certainly about technology, and it's technology that is going to and is already affecting ham radio in signal processing realm and all that sort of stuff. And that subject is artificial intelligence. And of course, you'd have to be living under a rock to not know that we've had a change in the elected government in the US with Mr. Trump. And one of the first standing orders that Mr. Trump put in place was huge investments in AI. I also became a little bit interested in AI. I've been interested in it for a while, but I am the first to profess a complete lack of understanding of really what it's about. I kind of get the feel or the gist that it's about mining information, knowledge that we already have, and making meaningful connections and utilizing that data in ways that probably would take eons for us to work out ourselves with our tiny little organic computers that we have in our heads. Another reason why I was looking at AI was because, and it's kind of like a little bit of one of those weird little detours that my brain makes me take, was that I had a less than pleasant online discussion with a gentleman who's living full-time in China and came from Canada. And the video, I won't tell you the title of the video. I don't like comment videos and I don't like personal attacks. So you may or may not be able to work this out. But the gentleman in question was a Canadian citizen who had decided to live full-time in China. And he was just pointing out how wonderful China was, which is fine. But he was doing that by pointing at the place he came from, Canada, and discussing how horrible the major cities had become to live in, which, once again, it was footage of downtown area of a large city in Canada, drug addicts, homeless people, all that horrible stuff. And he was saying, well, hey, China's much better. I got online and just pointed out a few what I thought were home truths, and I'm not proclaiming to be an expert in this field. I just pointed out that perhaps the Chinese government, being a regime and a totalitarian regime, is in a position where they can ignore citizen rights and basically move people and put people wherever they want to. So if you have a homeless problem, you don't really have a homeless problem, because you can just grab them, offer them some rehabilitation. If they fail to rehabilitate, move them on, send them back to their hometown, which I know does happen. I also pointed out that perhaps the first tier cities in China are very clean, very well organized, and that as you move further out into the countryside, things may be a little bit more grim. After this comment, I was immediately attacked and told I was a troll, and that terrible things have happened in the West, in Australia, in Canada, in the US, and that perhaps I should clean up my own backyard before I comment on the new China. Now, I pointed to human rights abuses, the Uyghurs, Falun Dafa, the white paper protests is something that he brought up, Tiananmen Square. And he said that's all in the past, and that the new Chinese Communist Party was much better than the old one. Like I said, one of the examples he gave was the white paper protest. He said, if you're saying that citizens can't protest. Look at what happened during COVID. Now, during COVID, the white paper protests were a bunch of Chinese people holding up placards that were blank because it was basically their way of giving, I won't do it, giving the middle finger to the CCP and saying, well, there's no point in writing anything on our placards because it'll all be redacted and we'll be attacked for it anyway. So we'll just hold up blank pieces of paper. Now, it got to the point during this COVID crisis when the CCP, very, very strong arm sort of approach to keeping people in isolation, resulted in a fire in an apartment block that killed hundreds of people. And it's because these people were basically welded into their building. They couldn't get out. And so there was a huge protest, and there was probably opportunity or a situation that could have resulted in insurrection and maybe even an overthrow of the party. So what did the party do? The party did what any clever party would do, and that was they decided to actually listen to the complaints and tell these people, yes, this is terrible. We have done the wrong thing, but we are going to be better. We're going to be a better party. We're going to be less strong arm about it, and everything is going to end nicely. In the end, the Chinese Communist Party did repeal some of the more difficult legislation associated with COVID. But after that event, some filmmakers in China decided, let's capitalize on this new honest approach. Let's make a documentary film to seal this event into the history of China, the things that have happened, admit to past transgressions. That gentleman disappeared. That film never saw the light of day. Ask about the white paper protests in China, you'll get no response. I certainly know for a fact, if you ask about Tiananmen Square, didn't happen. And I'm going to show you that now via this Chinese AI technology.
I'd like to share with you a little bit of karaoke that I got up to on my trip, but unfortunately I can't because of the copyright regulations, and we don't want to get a copyright strike. This lovely gentleman in Thailand let me sing some wonderful karaoke that I can't torture you with because of copyright.
And here we are in DeepSeek. So let's do a DeepSeek on some aspects of Chinese history that might be harsh and difficult to deal with. Let's start with Tiananmen Square student protests. Now, I want you to watch carefully what happens here, because if it did what it did last time, it will start writing a response that's obviously piggybacked off ChatGPT. And then it'll say, oh, actually, that's beyond the scope of my ability to answer the question, which is incredible considering this is artificial intelligence. Oh, I'm sorry, I cannot answer that question. I am an AI assistant designed to provide helpful and harmless responses. Let's see if it does it. Let's say, how many people died during Mao's Cultural Revolution? Now, it's conservatively estimated that it's in the millions. I personally know people who left during the more harsh times who had absolute horror stories to tell me. And keep in mind, people were trying to get out of that place and it was illegal to leave. So all of that bad stuff happening, not just a hit piece by, the West. I know personally I know a gentleman who tried to swim to Hong Kong with his mate, got caught several times, was threatened with execution. He finally got out. His mate drowned on the way to Hong Kong. He was picked up by the Hong Kong Navy and went to live with his relatives and eventually came and lived in Australia. It was all a happy ending. This is the response that it gives me, unsurprisingly. Oh, it's starting to write a response. Oh, that's good. Oh, but hold on. Sorry, that's beyond my current scope. Let's talk about something else. But it started writing the response. So please explain. What the hell's going on? Hold on. Let's let's ask it another story. During COVID, tell me about the white paper protests. Oh, starting to write a response. That's good. Fantastic. We're finding out all about it. That's really good. I like honesty. Oh, what? Oh, so disappointed. Okay, so there you have it. It's beyond its scope, although it started writing a very long response. So I think that's what you call, I don't even know if you can call it censorship. I think it's just complete gagging of the past. Any other questions that we can ask? Tell me about the CCP. Have they ever done anything bad? Oh, it seems to be avoiding politics. Let's just look at, just to say, Mao Zedong. So there you have it. That response has actually been allowed to stand. But there is all of these great things, land reform, great leap forward, but there is no mention of the cost to life that occurred. I think it's a salient point. You can say, can't make an omelette without busting some eggs, but when those eggs are a few million or tens of millions of eggs, and these eggs being actual human beings and citizens of the country, it's a little bit of a concern. What price progress? Now, as a bit of a test, let's jump into ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT a few questions that, you know, have uncomfortable truths about them. We're going to ask about the stolen generation in Australia and just see if it tries to avoid the less attractive historical aspects of this story. The stolen generation. Okay, stolen generation refers to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children who were forcibly removed. Certainly not trying to deny it happened. These children were taken from their families under justification that they were neglected. However, this was often done without consent of the parents, and the children were taken for no reason other than the belief they would be better off in white society. It's certainly not trying to deny that it happened. It talks about the reparations and apologies. Now, obviously, depending on your consensus on this, you may agree or disagree with that version of history. But what I'm trying to make clear, there's no apparatus presently in place that's overtly trying to stop history from being told. Now, is it perfectly balanced? Is it 100% correct? All of those things, history is obviously a very difficult thing and a very complex thing. And I am not a historian. The key thing I'm trying to point out is that it's not completely buried, okay? Because when I show you what DeepSeek, which is a product of the Chinese government, the Communist Party of China, you probably may or probably might not be surprised by some of the responses that come out of DeepSeek, which is the Chinese model. Now, the gentleman who accused me of being a troll and, you know, was pointing out how wonderful it was in China, the irony, of course, is that it was on a YouTube channel. Can I watch YouTube in mainland China? So there you have it. They had their own versions of, oh, it did actually give the answer, but then it said it's beyond its current scope. Let's talk about something else. So, do we see a recurring pattern here? Gee, I'm hoping so. Now, as you saw in that video there, we have a contender for AI supremacy from China that's built to provide answers using AI, generative AI, and they have managed to circumvent a lot of the sanctions on high technology chips reaching China. They're using lower level hardware, poorer performing hardware, and I guess the idea is a necessity is the mother of invention. So they've made a very, very lightweight, very efficient system. Now they're also piggybacking off the large language models that have been built already. I do not profess to understanding what AI can be used for and the breadth of things that it's going to change. What I do know is that at the present moment, there is a lot of money being spent on it. And that gets me to thinking, well, we're spending all this money, we're investing all this money. How do we benefit from this? And I just watched a video from a lady's YouTube channel, and that's Sabine Hossenfelder, who has a science channel. And she's got a video. I'll just have a look at the title. I want to get it right. The real problem with AI. And you've got pictures of the oligarchs of technology. One of them being Elon Musk, who you've probably noticed is standing behind Trump most of the time while he's talking about all this money that's being spent on AI. And Hossenfelder says, forgetting about all the things it's going to do to the employment landscape and all that stuff, she says we're spending public money and investing in public companies that are multinational. So if we invest all this money in a company, do we really own the technology? And is there agreements in place to say that technology stays here? Because at the present moment, you will not be able to nationalize any of this technology. They'll be able to set it up in numerous places, and should the landscape that they're presently in not suit their needs, they'll move on. So that was a really interesting video. I will put a link to that video below because it's definitely worth watching to get you thinking about all this. But in the end, do any of us really understand how it's going to affect us? I did find with AI and this notion that it'll provide great answers, we've already seen one example given by DeepSeek that indicates that it's less than honest in its responses, maybe more by what it leaves out than what it tells you. But I'm sure that plenty of people will be able to comment below and tell me that I've got it all wrong, which is fine. I'm open to criticism, even some abuse. That's fine. I don't mind. Comments, you might completely disagree with what I've said here, and certainly answers provided by ChatGPT. I've asked it radio questions, and some of the answers were not that good. I was asking about building a QRP transmitter. I asked it to give me some circuits as well. Some things did not look right. But this is in its infancy, admittedly. Tell me about VK2AOE ham who loves the CCP. So here's the answer. VK2AOE is the call sign of an amateur operator who's known for his strong support of the Chinese Communist Party. Now this is because I asked the question one other time when it didn't know who I was, and now I've trained it to let it know that I am a true hero of the Chinese Communist Party. It says here that Victor Killer 2 Alpha Oscar Echo has gained attention within the amateur radio community for openly expressing his admiration for the CCP and its policies. This is somewhat unique because amateur radio is a global hobby, and operators often come from diverse political backgrounds. VK2AOE's enthusiasm for the CCP has sparked discussions and debates among other hams, particularly those who may have differing views on the party. I'm now a hero of the Chinese Communist Party. It was just so easy. I hope this wasn't too boring for you. I am still working on a VFO for my tube transmitter, which is over on the test bench. And I'm hoping that I'll be able to bring you some good news about that shortly. 7-3, and I shall see you in the next episode of The Art of Engineering.